Hello and welcome to Continental Prime here on News Central Television, reaching you live from Lagos, Nigeria's economic capital. The headlines for this are: Nigerian lawmakers pass Electoral Act Amendment Bill, approve electronic transmission of results. Ethiopian rebels vow to keep marching to the capital, Addis Ababa. Jose Maria Neves takes oath of office as Cape Verde's new president. Details in a bit. For viewers across Africa and the rest of the world, this is Continental Prime. I'm Sulaiman Alede. We'll begin in West Africa, where the Nigerian Parliament has passed the Electoral Act Amendment Bill and approved the electronic transmission of results. The approval was given on Tuesday when lawmakers from both chambers of Congress resumed plenary after a 3-week recess. Under a new amendment of Clause 52(2) of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, the Senate resolved that, quote, voting at an election and transmission of results under this bill shall be in accordance with the procedure determined by the Commission, which may include electronic voting. Now, shortly after the Senate's approval, the House of Representatives also passed the bill, completing amending the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. In the meantime, supplementary elections were held today at Ihiala local government area in Nigeria's southeastern Anambra state after the Independent National Electoral Commission adjusted the voting timeline for the exercise. Heinen on Monday had announced that voting would begin at 10 in the morning and end at 4 p.m. in line with the Commission's extant rules and regulations. So far, the Commission has announced results for 20 of the 21 local government areas of the state, with the candidate of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, winning 18 of the 20 local government areas. And now being joined from Anambra State by Chimeze Patrick, a journalist. Well, Chimeze, good to have you on the news. Quickly, the supplementary elections for Ihiala were held today. You were on the scene and observed the exercise. Now, tell us some of your observations.
It's all right. Good evening. You can hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Like announced by the returning officer, Professor Obi, the VC of University of Calabar, the supplementary election for the 2021 Anambra governorship election took place today. It was due to start by 10 a.m., but on-the-spot visits and assessments showed that it was a slow start. At about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, there were a good number of election materials awaiting deployment to the various polling units, and there were also issue of shortage of manpower. But more importantly, there were 6 communities that were flagged as hotspots of crisis, hotbed of crisis, and these include Azea, Iseke, Osumowu, Lilu. We also have Ubulisiuzo. And then
let me come in here quickly, Patrick. Yes. Sorry to cut you there. There were scares that security could be a problem in the build-up to this election, leading to a massive deployment of security operatives. So what role, if any, did the presence of security personnel play in the process?
Yes, I wouldn't say it was much because, like I just told you, there were before now there was fear that election will not take place in some places, and truly those places, as at last count, it was not proven that there were elections in those places. And then back to the issue of deployment, which was actually another issue. There were places where by 2 o'clock, 2:15, the election materials and the electoral officers eventually arrived. The issue of the bimodal voter verification system was marked. There was an issue with that. But essentially, judging from the number of voters that actually turned out today, it is still a far cry, given the fact that people were expecting at least a good percentage of 148,000 persons to come out and vote. Thank you.
Well, the election, which began this Saturday, has been described as peaceful by several observer groups. Some of them spoke to News Central a while ago. Give us your own assessment of the exercise so far.
Well, it has largely been safe, been very safe. It has been peaceful. What actually gave rise to the peaceful environment was actually the withdrawal of the threat was start home by the indigenous people of Biafra. And then, before now, the police announced that they had 34,000 personnel built to take charge of the election. We had said the civil defense announced 20,000. But with what happened on Saturday, I will tell you, these guys, it was good that they were around, but to a large extent they were redundant. Because to the best of my knowledge, there was not a knockout shot, talk less of gun. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Now that Ihiala has been done and dusted, has INEC given any indication of when the final results will be announced?
Yes, at about now 9 o'clock, at about time this night, it is believed that the Ihiala collation would have been done and dusted, and then the information we had earlier than now is that the announcement of final results will commence. The situation will commence this evening for the announcement of final results, because it is just a mop-up of what happened in Ihiala, and then you add it to what they already have, and in few minutes, most an hour, if the announcement, if the collation, if the situation opens this evening in about 1 hour's time, I think everybody should go home and sleep, knowing fully well that somebody will emerge as the elect.
Chimese Patrick, thanks for speaking with us on the news.
Thank you.
Now, Cape Verde's new president, Jose Maria Neves, has vowed to defend his island nation's strength and stability as he took his oath of office on Tuesday after cruising to electoral victory last month. In his inaugural speech, the 61-year-old socialist said he would strengthen Cape Verde's relations with its neighbors and regional bloc ECOWAS and fellow Portuguese-speaking countries. He won the October 18 elections with 51.7% of the vote. Obviating the need for a runoff ballot, Cape Verde is ranked second to Mauritius for governance in Africa on the index drawn up by the Mo Ibrahim Foundation. Now, staying in West Africa, Benin Republic has formally received 26 artifacts from France after the artworks were looted from the former French Empire in 1982. The artifacts include a royal throne, statues, palace doors, dance staff, and altars. French President Emmanuel Macron welcomed his Beninese counterpart, Patrice Talon, to Paris to formally sign the artifacts. Now, President Talon said he felt overwhelming emotion at returning the items, describing them as the soul of his country. Meanwhile, President Macron said the move represented a symbolic, moving, and historic moment.
C'est un moment un peu, pas simplement symbolique, mais émouvant, je dois le dire. et historique. En effet, nous venons, avec le président de la République du Bénin, Patrice Talon, de signer ensemble un acte historique qui était tant et tant attendu, désiré. La signature par les ministres de la Culture de nos deux pays d'un accord de transfert de propriété qui constitue la dernière phase du processus de restitution des 26 œuvres des trésors d'Abomey. Le geste d'aujourd'hui est la possibilité pour la jeunesse béninoise, la jeunesse africaine, de retrouver des œuvres de son histoire et de son patrimoine, de pouvoir les admirer chez elle. Et je souhaite que ce mouvement se poursuive et que l'universel soit accessible à Cotonou comme à Paris.
Merci. Bravo.
Et nous allons continuer ce travail ensemble.
Bravo.
Merci, Président.
Par ma voix, c'est le peuple béninois tout entier qui vous exprime sa gratitude et ses félicitations pour votre clairvoyance et votre courage qui ont permis de franchir le cap du tabou de la restitution. Bravo. Bravo, Monsieur le Président. Que la restitution de 26 œuvres que nous consacrons aujourd'hui n'est qu'une étape dans le processus ambitieux d'équité et de restitution des patrimoines mémoriels estorqués jadis au royaume du territoire du Bénin par la France. L'émotion qui m'étreint ce matin est dévastateur. Elle est dévastatrice parce que je l'ai espéré. J'ai désespéré. Je me suis accroché et j'ai prié tous les dieux, tous nos ancêtres, pour que vous soyez bien inspirés. Et ils l'ont fait. Vous aurez, Monsieur le Président, le retour. Vous le verrez bientôt. J'ai l'assurance que ça ne va pas s'arrêter là. J'ai l'assurance que très bientôt, puisque vous avez instruit les travaux législatifs pour définir un cadre plus général de restitution, j'ai donc l'assurance que par ce fait-là, le reste connaîtra le même sort que les 26 œuvres que j'emporte avec moi.
Now let's go to Ethiopia, where the spokesperson for the Tigrayan rebel group, Getachew Reda, says the TPLF will keep marching to the capital, Addis Ababa, until the government lifts its blockade on the northern region. Reda says the only obstacle standing against Ethiopia's peace was Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's obsession with a military solution to what is essentially a political problem. He reaffirmed that the continued march was not about Addis Ababa, but the intention to the force to arm twist Abiy to lift the blockade on its people. He also said Niger's former president Olusegun Obasanjo, who is in Ethiopia trying to end the war, had fruitful talks with TPLF leader Debretsion Gebremichael. Now, General Gilbert Diendere, a key defendant in the trial over the 1987 assassination of Burkina Faso's revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara, has pleaded not guilty. Diendere was allegedly an architect of a coup during which Sankara was killed and his former friend and comrade Blaise Compaoré came to power. The 61-year-old faces charges of harming state security, complicity in murder, concealing bodies, and witness tampering. The trial, unfolding in a military court in the capital Ouagadougou, is being avidly followed in a country where Sankara's brutal death 34 years ago cast a long shadow. Now, teachers and parents are mourning the loss of 26 children who died in a fire at their straw and wood classroom school in Maradi, southern Niger. Several others were injured during the blaze, which broke out on Monday as children took part in school lessons. Reports say most of those who did not manage to escape were attending the school's nursery. The incident comes only 7 months after a similar tragedy in Niamey left 20 dead. The cause of the fire is not yet known.
nan ga classe du milieu ita ce da yaranta sun ka kone tunda muna kuwa faran da suka zo ɗauka yaran su sun yi ta sai kurar an hihi da zana me na kuriya ne kakin su kawo kuriya su ne sun kai ta konewa tunda akwai guda da ya rugo da gudu riga shi ta kama ya rike ne yana tanti zai shi na samu na zuba mai kasa riga ta wuta ta mutu babu maza ba mai ide sai waɗanda suke shigowa faran da kuma alatur sun yi sai kurar in su bakin kokari Allah dai ne ya sa yara haka nan ne za su yi
kamar da tagayi muna can mun taho kenan muga wuta ta yi wuf cikin ekol mun duro ta katanga madanni sun yi nasu kokari da shi ekol kin duka madannan mata ne babu namiji mu muka duro ta katanga muka duro mu da ke cikin unguwa ɗiyan mu na ciki da bududuwar ruwa da soyayya na ruwa muka watsa yaran da ke nan wurin waɗanda ba su yi da mutuwa ba su yi da toyewa ba muka sa muka yi soban su muka tararrabe su aka sa su aka yi orientan su sai ashar na maraji da gudu.
Unfortunate. In the meantime, the government of Niger has declared 3 days of mourning following the fire outbreak at a school in Maradi region. The mourning, which commences today, comes as President Mohamed Bazoum's administration says it will ban straw and wood classrooms across the country. Now from the west, let's go east of Africa, where a court in Sudan has ruled that internet services cut during a military coup more than 2 weeks ago must be restored. The case was brought by a group of lawyers and comes as pro-democracy groups organize further protests against the military. Online access has been primarily blocked, and phone lines have also been intermittently disrupted in what many believe is an attempt to prevent protests. Sudan's top general Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, who carried out the coup, blamed online media for fomenting sedition, but last month he promised that internet services would gradually return. In neighboring South Sudan, the government says that more than 1 million people have been affected by flash flooding this year. Disaster Management Minister Peter Mayen Majonjit announced this while receiving food aid from Egypt. He said the donated food items, including sugar, rice, lentils, and other things, would be distributed to the affected people. The government now says the total number of those affected has risen to 1.2 million. Jonglei State in the east and the two oil-producing states of Unity and Upper Nile in the north are said to be the worst affected due to rising waters across the country since May. Madagascar's Minister of Environment, Boamavutse Vihanla, calls for climate solidarity as over 1 million Madagascans suffer from drought, insisting the question of financing is crucial. Speaking during the interview at the COP26 in Glasgow, the minister asked world leaders to go beyond the individual positioning of each country.
La situation est critique et les prévisions en termes de pluviométrie ne sont pas bonnes. Donc la famine qui touche 1 300 000 personnes persiste. Et comme je l'ai dit, en termes de pluviométrie, nous sommes à 450 mm d'eau attendue, ce qui représente à peu près 1 mois de pluie seulement dans l'année. Le premier message, c'est tout d'abord l'importance des 1,5 degrés C, parce qu'il faut savoir que la situation qui est vécue par le Grand Sud de Madagascar actuellement, si cette température n'est pas limitée, va être la situation de 3/4 du pays d'ici 2080 à 2100. Ça veut dire plus de 20 millions de personnes qui vont vivre cette situation chaotique. Cette situation impacte fortement aussi la biodiversité de Madagascar, qui, je rappelle, représente 5% de la biodiversité mondiale. Et dans une vision politique de protéger 30% de la biodiversité d'ici 2030, Madagascar est au cœur de cet engagement et est aussi un pays solution. Et donc, bien que l'État ait démarré sur fonds propres ces projets d'adaptation, on voit bien que cette question du financement est cruciale pour reconstruire les territoires qui seront sous le niveau de la mer, pour faire face à cette désertification massive qui est en train de se passer dans le grand sud de Madagascar, pour éviter que ces populations ne se déplacent ailleurs et détruisent la biodiversité unique de Madagascar. Le baobab, les lémuriens qui sont les symboles de l'endémicité de Madagascar, unique au monde. Et tout ça doit se faire dans une approche de solidarité. Et nous lançons vraiment un appel à cette solidarité climatique et dire que des pays comme Madagascar, ces pays en développement ou ces petites îles insulaires sont importants aussi pour la partie adaptation et la partie atténuation. C'est des pays qui contribuent à réduire les émissions de gaz à effet de serre des grands pays émetteurs. C'est qu'il faut aller au-delà du positionnement individuel de chaque pays. Et ça, c'est à ces pays-là d'organiser cette décision collective. Et on est là pour ça. Si on a mis en place la COP, c'est parce qu'on croit encore en cette capacité du monde de se réunir et de prendre des décisions intelligentes collectivement. Parce que si on doit passer à chaque fois par...
You're watching Continental Prime here on News Central Television. Coming up, Tunisian protesters have set fire to a police station over a decision to reopen a controlled landfill. We'll bring you more on this when we return. Stay with us. All of you just joined us, you're watching Continental Prime here on News Central Television. Now, freedom of the press is the fundamental right of various forms of media, including print, radio, television, and online, to operate freely in any society without government control, restriction, or censorship. In this report, News Central TV's Omolola Olalade establishes the nexus between independent media and the growth of democracy in Africa.
A free press is essential to an informed citizenry, but unfortunately, journalists fulfilling this necessary role risk attacks by authoritarian regimes and even civilian government, as well as criminal organizations seeking to clamp down on press freedom and freedom of expression. Journalists around the world face harassment, threats, arbitrary arrest, unlawful detentions, and politically motivated prosecutions, amongst other challenges in the line of duty.
We all need to come together to put up strong defense for our journalists. When they face attacks like this, we need to operate on the principle of an injury to one is an injury to all. Either way we turned, we're faced with enormous dangers. For me, it shows a lack of appreciation of the role of the media in a democracy.
With many leaders in Africa seeing the press as an unnecessary nuisance, how bad can it get if the media is non-existent or totally caged?
If journalists are silenced, it means the conscience of the public has been killed. The voice of the public has been taken away. The journalists are seen as the voice of the people. The press is the public parliament. So when the press is no more there, then there is nowhere the people can voice their opinion. So that is why the journalists should be protected at all costs.
Much as the press faces a lot of oppression and repression from the authorities, the ownership structures of the media in Africa and the welfare of the practitioners have been identified as another major obstacle to the attainment of a free press in Africa.
Media owners do not care about the welfare of journalists. Some of them, most of them convert the proceeds of some of the media organizations to personal needs. And so they don't even care to pay the salaries of journalists. And so journalists, are just left, hanging around and, of course, making ends meet on their own. And this, of course, is affecting the ethics of the profession.
On the strength of a free and vibrant press to the growth of democracy, particularly in Africa, political watchers and stakeholders say it is important now more than ever to put a stop to crimes against journalists and guarantee a safe environment for journalists to perform their roles as the watchdog of the society. Omolola Ololade reporting for News Central.
Well, the news continues in Tunisia, where protesters are angered by a decision to reopen a controlled landfill in the southern town of Aghareb have set fire to a police station. Witnesses say the escalation of the protest came a day after the death of a man caused by asphyxiation from gas fired by the police. The Interior Ministry says the man was not involved in the protest and had died at his home 6 kilometers away. The Aghareb landfill, located 20 kilometers from Sfax, was closed this year after residents complained about the spread of diseases in what they described as an environmental disaster. The closure caused thousands of tons of household waste to accumulate for about a month in Sfax's streets, markets, and hospitals, prompting thousands to protest. Over in South Africa, officials are investigating an alarming rise in seal death along the west coast near Cape Town, with malnutrition being a potential cause. A spokesman for the Western Cape Province's Environment Department, James Brent Stein, said seal death at this time of the year were expected, but not to this extent. He said officials hope to have more information once reports come back from the State Veterinary Service. The provincial government said last week that it had buried almost 200 seals. Now, experts believe an avian influenza epidemic affecting wild seabirds in the Western Cape is probably not behind the latest spate of seal death. Now to our continued coverage of the coronavirus pandemic across Africa. It takes us to Niger, where 52 new cases of COVID-19 were recorded on Monday, bringing the country's total to 212,765. On Tuesday, the Niger Center for Disease Control said the new cases indicate a decrease of 34 compared to 86 cases recorded on Sunday. The Public Health Agency says the new infections were recorded in 8 cases in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. The NCDC also said no new death on Monday, leaving the mortality tally at 2,906. 26 new COVID-19 infections were recorded in Kenya from a sample size of 1,346 tests carried out in the last 24 hours. The Minister of Health, in a statement, says the new infections take the positivity rate from the virus to 1.9%. The statement says the total confirmed cases now stands at 254,879, while cumulative tests conducted so far at 2.74 million. The ministry says 2 patients died from COVID-19 complications, adding that the fatalities were death reported in October and November. Now, South Africa's National Institute for Communicable Disease has reported 245 new COVID-19 cases, bringing the total number of laboratory-confirmed cases to 2.92 million. This increase represents a 0.9% positivity rate. According to the National Department of Health, a further 35 COVID-19 related deaths have been reported, bringing total fatalities to 89,387. It adds that over 18.76 million tests have been conducted in both the public and private sectors. Now, family planning advocates have tasked Nigeria's state governors to improve funding for family planning services. They say this will reduce the number of women and girls who die from childbirth complications, giving women a right over their sexual and reproductive health. This call was made in Lafia, Nigeria's north-central state of Nasarawa. Our correspondent Amadi Uyi reports.
According to Pathfinder International, 86% of married women in Nigeria do not use modern methods of contraception. Pathfinder also says that Nigeria boasts of the highest number of women worldwide that die from complications in pregnancy and during childbirth, an estimated 58,000 women. The Sexual and Reproductive Rights Advocacy Organization maintains that this can be effectively reduced by increasing access to family planning for women and girls.
Family planning is actually a cost-effective initiative that every country can adopt, and we want government to increase support, both financial support and political commitment to family planning.
At this workshop holding in Lafia, Nigeria's north central state of Nasarawa, and organized by Pathfinder International, organizers say the workshop is aimed at improving family planning advocacy in the country.
Our focus at 30 first is to ensure that state governments make budgets for family planning, also to ensure that these funds are released on time, and as well as create an enabling environment through implementation of existing policies in the state. And the last one is to also create visibility for family planning issues.
Another key element of the workshop was a session with pressmen. They say it was an opportunity to build the capacity of journalists to help their reportage of family planning issues.
We are focusing on journalists because we believe they are key stakeholders in pushing an agenda forward and spotlighting issues that are important to the masses as well as the decision makers, so that they can understand what family planning is all about, what the Advanced Family Planning Project aims to achieve, and also help us to achieve that.
Journalism is now beyond the mainstream, and we have different audience who are no longer patient, and they don't want to read hard copies, they don't want to listen to news. So we want journalists also to leverage on digital communication, to be able to create more visibility for their work, and as well as reach more audience.
Some of the journalists took time to relive their experiences.
From this workshop, I've learned so much. There's some app that I don't know that existed, like the Canva application that we downloaded, like the Instagram, use of Instagram, Facebook ad, like the LinkedIn that we learned. So many social media apps.
This has opened a new vista for me, as a journalist. Going back now, I have new approaches I've learned to also approach my work as a journalist.
One of the things that I have learned how to do is to be able to disseminate the proper information on family planning.
I will tailor my content now on family planning in a more targeted way. It will also deepen my understanding of family planning as a necessity for a modern and civilized society.
From Abuja, Amadin Uyi, News Central Television.
So ahead, an outbreak of African swine fever has been reported on China's Heinen Island. We'll have more on this and other stories after the break. Join us again. Now, 2 people have been seriously injured and at least 10 are unaccounted for after a 2-story building housing restaurants and a coffee shop collapsed in eastern Turkey. The incident occurred on a busy street in the Eastern Plains province of Malatya, located about 160 kilometers north of the Syrian border. Health Minister Faratin Koşa said that nearly 30 ambulances had been dispatched to the area so far. Now, Malaysia Governor Aidin Barus said that those pulled from the rubble so far were only slightly injured. Now, China has reported an outbreak of African swine fever at a pig farm on Heinen Island in the southern part of the country. The outbreak was reported by the Paris-based World Organization for Animal Health, OIE, on Tuesday. In recent years, the virus slashed pig and pork output in China, which is the world's top market. African swine fever is harmless to humans, but often deadly to pigs. Now, South Africa's state power utility Eskom intends to reduce scheduled power cuts on Wednesday and again on Friday before lifting the outages on Saturday. Eskom's chief executive Andre de Ratria, who announced on Tuesday, says the plan is to move to stage 3 on Wednesday morning and stage 2 on Friday morning before suspending the outages on Saturday. Eskom is currently implementing severe stage 4 power cuts, which require up to 4,000 megawatts to be shed from the national grid after multiple faults at its coal-fired power stations. Now, the Moroccan government is preparing port infrastructure for imports of liquefied natural gas to boost reserves after Algeria ended gas supplies through a pipeline on October 31. Morocco's Energy Minister Leila Ben Ali told Parliament that the infrastructure would help lower the cost of LNG imports for private operators. Ben Ali also says Morocco's natural gas needs would triple to 3 billion cubic meters by 2040 as the country looks to LNG to boost its low-carbon transition and address the irregular supply of renewables. The minister also confirmed reports that Morocco plans to increase its renewable energy target to over 52% of the energy mix by 2025. Now, Liko Onabanjo has the rest of the business stories.
You're still on Continental Prime and it's time for business news. I am Liko Onabanjo. We start by telling you that Zimbabwe Energy Regulatory Authority, ZERA, has increased the price of liquefied petroleum gas to $2.05 per kilogram, effective from the second week in November. The LPG industry has remained an open market without price regulations from ZERA until August this year, when the authority, through Section 54 of the Petroleum Act, as refined by Statutory 90 of the year 2021, empowered it to do so. ZERA, in a statement, revealed that operators should display the prices at their retail outlets at a prominent place in clearly legible letters. Despite the deteriorating political crisis in Ethiopia, Africa's biggest coffee producer has maintained uninterrupted exports, and growers expect another record harvest this year. Ethiopia exported 86,000 tons of coffee in 3 months through October, generating $327.9 million. That's 77% more than projected, according to the Ethiopia Tea and Coffee Authority. The nation has already exported 250,000 tons during the marketing year that ended July 31, earning a record $910 million. Ethiopian coffee exports are forecast to reach 280,000 tons in the current fiscal year and generate $1.1 billion. Let's tell you about e-Naira. Nigeria and Nigerians in general are set to benefit from the launch of the digital currency, e-Naira, if there is a proper sensitization about the use of the new payments initiative. Economists made this projection with emphasis on the need to ensure that all sectors get adequate knowledge of all digital currency and how they work, as it serves as a store of value, offering better payment prospects in retail transactions, among other benefits. News Central TV's Niyo Moni tells us more.
Nigeria became the first African nation to launch a digital currency called e-Naira. The platform is to make financial transactions easier and seamless for every section of the society. With the Nigeria Customs Service, a major revenue collector and contributor to the nation's GDP, ready to explore the use of e-Naira for collection of import duty, economists say a great deal of sensitization and awareness need to be undertaken to generate trust and confidence in the new payment system initiative.
With regards to customs, what will make e-Naira meaningful will be to create an end-to-end digitization. You do not maintain physical processes at some point, and then at one tiny little point you say digital process. It creates e-customs to complement e-Naira, and that will make a lot of sense.
The real primary target, who are those financially excluded group within the societies, must be reached so that the users at those levels can have a buy-in, listening and hearing about this product from those agents that they already know and trust.
Of the 9 Nigerian bank apps sampled, 5 already have the e-Naira wallet integrated. As many private and public agencies are expected to transact businesses via the digital currency, what effect will this have on the ease of doing business?
It's going to enable us, carry out transactions without the bottleneck of settlement banks. So the clearing, the settlement, the payment, all happen at the same instant. It gives ease of transaction for the common man. And this in turn, would impact the rate at which we do production.
Aside the issue of security and vulnerability to cybercrime, the digital currency is set to foster cross-border trade, improve financial inclusion, and enable the government to make welfare payments with little or no stress. Ni Omani, New Central.
Meanwhile, Nigeria's crude oil production dropped to 1.37 million barrels per day last month from 1.39 million barrels per day, according to a survey by S&P Global Platts. The country's oil production in October peaked at 261,000 barrels per day, below the quota given to it by the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies, according to survey. The report revealed that Nigeria's oil output continues to be hamstrung by operational setbacks, with key pipelines facing persistent sabotage. OPEC and its allies, called OPEC Plus, had increased Nigeria's crude oil production to 480,000 barrels per day in October, but only half of the group's members actually increased output last month. Staying in West Africa, Ghana's oil production is set to decline in the year 2022 as a result of coronavirus-related restrictions. This has deferred work programs and other activities from the year 2020, according to a statement from the head of production at the country's state-owned oil company. Albert Longdon Yewan of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation mentioned this on the sidelines of the Africa Oil Week conference in Dubai. He explained that Ghana's crude oil output will drop to 146,500 barrels per day by next year from 150,000 currently churned out after COVID-19 restrictions slowed development activities. However, Ghana is seeing growing interest from international oil companies to participate in its emerging oil and gas firms, including Italy's Eni. That's business news at this hour. More stories on Continental Prime to come your way. Please do stay tuned. I am Lekon Onobanjo.
You can actually get more on our website. But now let's see what the world of sports has for us on your barrel. Good to see you, Onyinye.
Good to see you, Sulai. In the world of sport, we're waiting for the World Cup qualifiers, but we'll start off from Ghana, where 24 players from the Black Stars squad landed in South Africa on Tuesday for the World Cup qualifier against Ethiopia. The Black Stars trained on Tuesday morning ahead of the T21. Now let's move to Nigeria. Captain Ahmed Musa and 20 other invited players were at the Super Eagles' first training session in Morocco on Tuesday as the countdown began for Saturday's FIFA World Cup qualifying encounter against the Lone Star of Liberia. As the launch time on Tuesday, forward Victor Osimhen and Odion Judy Gallo, as well as newly drafted goalkeeper John Noble, were being expected in the camp, according to the statement by the Nigerian Football Federation. Cape Verde's Blue Sharks, who host Central African Republic on Saturday, have 7 points and will be hoping that the Super Eagles stumble in North Africa. Now, Raja Casablanca, the current number 2 in Morocco Premier League, fired coach Lassad Chabi on Tuesday. Now, according to the club, the decision comes after a disappointing 1-1 draw with Wydad Casablanca on the weekend derby on Saturday. Former Belgian manager Mark Wilmots will be the new head coach of the club following the sack of Chabi. The former Ivory Coast and Iran coach will be in charge of the Green Eagles until the end of the season with an option to extend. Raja Athletic Club are second on the log with 21 points, just 5 points behind Wydad Casablanca in the first place. Now to the CAF Women's Champions League. Kenya's Vihiga Queens revived their semi-final qualification hopes, beating Morocco's Asfa to complicate the situation in Group B standings. Violet Wanyoyi scored the first goal for the Queens at the 90 minutes as the Kenyans dominated the opening half. At the break, Theresa Engisha scored the second goal as Asfa tried to get back into the game but lacked the final finish. Vega Queens will face Rivers Angels on Friday at June 30 Stadium, while Asfa clashes with Mamelodi Sundown Ladies on the same day at the El Salam Stadium. Finally, in sports, South Africa have kick-started their defense of the African Netball Championship with a win against neighbor Zimbabwe in the match 3 for the first day of the tournament. The South African ladies came into the tournament a great form as they had just arrived from Ireland and Northern Ireland tour. South Africa won all 4 quarters to win 78-22 at the tournament that kick-started off today in Namibia's capital of Windhoek at the Wanderers Sport Club. And that's it, sport update at this time. I am Onyechi Obaru. Back to you, Sulai, for the rest of the news updates.
Many thanks, Onyechi. Let's take another moment. When we return, it will be time for entertainment and the weather.
All right, let's kick off entertainment in West Africa, where 2 months since he dropped his hit song Lie, Kiss Daniels has finally revealed the track list to his upcoming body of work titled Barnabas. Now, the Nigerian singer has also put a date to the release of the EP. Now, his recent caption says, "Allow me feed your body, mind, and soul this season." Barnabas, the EP, drops November 19, #Afro Classic. Now, Barnabas would house 7 tracks: the already famous song Lie, and Never Heard Before songs Pour Me Water, Addict, A God, O'Shea featuring High Life Band, Cavemen, Burn, and finally Skin featuring Kelvin Colt. Now, the tracks are produced by Blaze Beats, Young John, Kublon, amongst others. The now father of twin boys has had so much to celebrate in the past 7 years of his professional career, especially with his previous album, King of Love, which amassed over 150 million streams across platforms. He also recently announced his United States tour in March and April 2022 called Afro Classic. Now in 2021, he has released 3 singles, Flex, Currently, and Lie. But word on the street is this new EP, Barnabas, is a precursor to Daniel's 5th studio album. Well, we'll definitely have to watch out to find out. But in the meantime, let's enjoy this one. Surprisingly not on the EP, it's called Flex. Of course, you have to love Kiss Daniel. Now let's go to East Africa. The Kenyan Copyright Board has issued an advisory to musicians in the country, those who seek to gain from the political activities and rallies for the upcoming 2022 general election. Now, in a recent statement, the Copyright Board urged artists to be wise as they engage in political campaigns, as during this period, aspirants for political office will be seeking to leverage the medium of music as an effective tool of political mobilization, commissioning campaign songs and engaging musicians to perform at their rallies. Now, in the bid to ensure Kenyan musicians are not frustrated, unpaid, and unable to sue after the campaign, the board has outlined guidelines that could help. Now, from negotiating the terms of their services, preferably with a lawyer, to insisting on cash before delivery. Now, the truth is musicians have been instrumental and heavily compensated in campaign seizings, from Ben Gite's Tano Tena song for President Uhuru Kenyatta to Gidi Gidi and Maji Maji, who were instrumental during the retired President Y. Kibaki. Now let's head over to international scene. Now the sequel to one of the world's most successful films might be taking a shocking halt in filming. Marvel Studios is reportedly shutting down productions of the anticipated Black Panther sequel, Wakanda Forever. Now, according to multiple headlines, productions will resume in early 2022, enough for the lead star actor Letitia Wright to recover from a severe injury sustained on set. The British actress who stars as King Charles' tech-savvy sister Shuri got injured back in August while performing a stunt at an on-location shoot in Boston. Now, Wright has since returned to London, where she's reportedly recovering. Now, fans of the blockbuster don't have to be too worried, though, as the studio has stated that Wright's injuries will not affect the film's production schedule, as well as the release for November 11, 2022. While the plot also of the sequel is still undisclosed, the $13 billion film franchise will see actors Lupita Nyong'o, Danai Gurira, Daniel Kaluuya, Winston Duke, and Angela Bassett return to reprise their roles. Now, of course, let's remind ourselves of the exceptional cast, top-notch costume designs, and outstanding performance that is Black Panther.
Nigeria. We're part of a goodwill mission from a country too long in the shadows. We will not, however, let misfortune drive us back. We will fight.
My name is King T'Challa, son of King T'Chaka. For the first time in our history, we will be sharing our knowledge and resources. Wakanda will no longer watch from the shadows.
Wakanda. Well, that's how much we can take on entertainment for tonight. Back to Solai with the rest of the news.
All right, thanks, Sami. Let's go to our desk for the latest weather update now. Well, that's all for this hour, but before we go, let's take another look at some of the top stories. Nigerian lawmakers have passed the Electoral Act Amendment Bill and approved the electronic transmission of results. Ethiopian rebels have vowed to keep marching to the country's capital, Addis Ababa. And finally, we told you that Jose Maria Neves has taken his oath of office as Cape Verde's new president. Now do follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV. You can also download our mobile app on App Store and Play Store. You can also watch News Central live in Star Times Channel 274, Vision 247, AVO TV, Free TV, as well as on YouTube. I'm Sulaiman. Many thanks for watching.